Hey everybody, I'm so excited to be here with you today. And we've been talking so much about the power of branding, whether you're a personal brand or a business, and how we present ourselves. But now with virtual meetings, conferences, the way we present ourselves virtually is crucial no matter what. So I'm sure you've heard all those funny commercials about people mocking how people show up on Zoom. And so I wanted to bring in Rochelle from my team to give you guys some incredible tips today. Rochelle has been with me since 2013, and she's an incredible marketer. She's brilliant with helping clients develop a brand voice, and she's known as a stylist to the stars. What that means, if you guys have no idea and you have not met Rochelle, she's actually helped some really well known celebrities. And I get super excited about this because she's very humble about this. And she's worked with stars from NBC, CBS, with Martin Stewart show. And you guys, I could keep talking about how brilliant she is with what she does. And that's why I wanted to bring her in. And if you guys are curious about what celebrities, one of them might be the king of the world, I will let you guys do some research and we will include some information on how you get to know a little bit more about Rochelle and what she does. So today I have Rochelle here to talk about the power of how we present ourselves, our brand styling, and how we can make little simple adjustments to present ourselves even better, especially if you're trying to find a job or you're meeting with a client. So, Rochelle, I'm so excited to have you here today and hear all your fabulous tips on how we can look better and present ourselves for our brand across the board.
Thank you, Nickte. Hi, it's great to be here.
So happy to have you.
Well, it seems obvious that, when we're now starting to do more and more presentations online or be part of Zoom meetings, whether we're leading them or we're one of the many little squares, you really do want to maximize that time. And so there's just some really easy and simple things that some people don't think of how to come across as their best. So we're going to talk about that today, starting with your just general look. So first of all, the focus really should be on what you're saying, not on the fact that you've got dangly earrings or errant hairs or, there's a lot of noise in the background and that type of stuff. So while it seems obvious, some of these tips will really be helpful. So, one of the things I'd say to begin on that is that if you look right, nobody notices, and that's a good thing, meaning that it doesn't become an issue. And so what you're saying is what comes across, and that's what you'd like the focus to be on. So basically, neat professional presentation. Again, what people are used to seeing you look like in the office. And if you are doing an interview, it's good to dress up as you would for an interview. Go a little bit more of the extra mile. If you do some makeup, it should be natural makeup instead of like too done. And some people have to rush to get to that meeting and sit down right away. It's good to just kind of fix what's in front, guys and girls. Worst case, just do a little something right here and everything should be fine.
So you're saying kind of
Um,
like is it the business in the front and party in the back type style?
that is correct.
So this is
You
an
don't have to know
actual
you got a
tactic I will
cocktail
try.
on the back. That's right. And so anyway, you should frame your shoulders pretty much or collarbone and up. You don't want to have like yourself off center. You don't want to be really, really close so that you're all head. And you don't want to be a tiny either. So just about right in the center is good. Um, and you want to wear something neutral, which is what I've chosen to do today. Again, because you want to think about hair and what you're wearing as kind of the frame for your face and what you're saying, again, just to keep focusing on your brain power, what you've got to contribute. On the other hand, when somebody has got a brand, this is an opportunity to brand. So like Nick for yourself, you're very colorful, right?
Yeah.
So you want to be wearing.
And the colors that represent, and I love that you share that, Rochelle, because I do think that is a great opportunity to align yourself. And what is important is that you said show up how you would normally show up when they see you in person or how you were in the office,
Mhm.
because I really do feel like those things matter. And this is very much part of my brand. This is how I am day to day. I love that you said the dangly earrings. So like for me, we're talking about the examples that we wanted to showcase and give you guys contrast. So I do wear big, bold earrings, but if you hear me move around, you won't hear the little dingle dangle, which is very
Yes.
distracting in a meeting.
Yeah.
So as long as you align it with who you are as a brand and it represents your brand and your brand values, then definitely keep it consistent. But this is, if this is not how you are normally day to day, then it's gonna just be distracting. So I love your tip too on how you frame your face, because I know we've been all in those meetings where people are like super close or they have like their computer like this and you're just looking down at their nose, which is very unflattering. So I love all
Mhm.
these tips that you were sharing, and you know how important it is for how we look and the way that we present ourselves. Now, what happens for those people that are not as comfortable being on video and they just rather not show up, or you just see some like, you know, really I know there's like the backup of like a background photo and we're showing you guys an example, but
Mhm.
what suggestions do you have for people who don't really feel comfortable showing up in face-to-face meetings like Zoom?
Well, it's just become part of things. So this is try to help you feel more comfortable. Worst case, you can insert a professional photo and have it there, especially if you're not speaking. If you're one of 7 or 8 windows or 18 or 50 people attending a meeting, you can absolutely do that. I do find it's a little disconcerting when you're in a meeting of 3 to 5 people and your professional photos up and you're just talking. It does make the others feel like a little bit like you're not contributing, but you can put that picture up if needed. So have it loaded. And the other thing is there is something, a feature on Zoom called Touch Up My Appearance. It's in the video settings, and what it does is it just kind of softens everything. So guy or girl, it just really makes a lot of the things go away, kind of like a little Vaseline on the lens from the old days. Another thing that can be helpful to do is, just if you guys had a uniform or something, like Apple has got when you walk into an Apple store, everybody's got the same color T-shirt with Apple. If you, American Airlines, some of the people do wear, a uniform in those colors. St. Jude Hospital, they guys have ties that say St. Jude on it. It can be nice to just kind of do that to join in with everyone else and not stand out so much, but it also continues your brand because this really is brand building. So look at it as an opportunity. If you're a little bit more introverted, just look at it as that you're doing nothing more than sitting at a table with someone like you would in person. And for those who are a little bit more interested in maximizing this, this is an opportunity to further your brand. Because if you notice, we've been watching for the last 4 to 6 months all these newscasters talking from their living rooms, their basement, like Chris Cuomo, um, people in their studies, and you really learn a little bit about people by looking at the background. And so that's one reason why backgrounds are important as well.
Yes, I love that. And
Yeah.
there is that option too, where when we are showing you guys an option that you can do with a background where you just have a design background. So if you do have a little bit of a messy setup and you don't have the option to kind of block things up, this is a great option for you to use. I think the only thing that I've discovered when using these, unless you have a green screen, if you do have texture hair, especially like I'm not wearing my hair as normally as curly, but it will pick up some of those strands. So it will look a little odd. So just keep that in mind. If you do need to do that, it's probably better if you kind of just like pat down your hair. I don't know what the term for it is. Rochelle,
Yeah.
that's more of
You
your.
can take a little hairspray, spray it on your fingers, and literally stick a couple down, men and women. A little trick that you
I
can
love
do.
that.
But it is important. So it is great to utilize it if you want to have your name brand right here. You also, worst case, there's a company or two that makes just a blank background cardboard that they put in dorms and things, and you can just stick it up. But it's really a good thing if you're doing a lot of Zoom meetings for your work that you just have an area in the house that is set up at all times. It's neat. And it may have some books to tell people about you. It might have a camera. It might have some twinkle lights, whatever your business may be. And just keep it set up so that you can go there with confidence.
I love that.
And just one real don't is do not have a messy background or a bed showing. I was watching CNN and there was a fantastic person saying all kinds of really important stuff, but there was a very neatly made bed with a pillow in the background. And I thought, even if you're in a studio in New York City, you could take your laptop for your interview and hold it against a blank wall and stand up if you need to, but don't, it's probably important to keep away from stuff that's so personal like that.
Yes.
Again, you don't want people to be looking at that instead of paying attention to what you're
Yes.
contributing.
I love that you said that because that kind of makes me think of that curiosity type thing that you see the background and you're like, oh, what is our kitchen like? Or what is the bedroom
I
like?
know,
Do I see anything messy? And then all of a sudden you're not paying attention. So I love that you mentioned that. You
yep.
were talking earlier about the importance of like lighting. And so can we talk a little bit about lighting? Because I do feel like that's such an important factor that does have some good fixes.
Yes. Okay. So just like in, okay, so lighting should be head on, taking away shadows. If you're wearing glasses, for example, see how you can see that there's an open skylight here, and you might not want to reflect that. If it's coming from above, it can show the rims here. If you turn towards a window, that might cast some shadows on one side. So it's important to try to find the best you can head on. And a great trick is if you take your phone and you put it on the selfie kind of on camera, put it on selfie so that you can look at yourself and you can walk around the house and say, okay, there's a good window, this lighting is this way. And when you find a good spot, that can help you preview it, set your camera up. And there's also a thing where you can go in and preview on Zoom, preview the meeting itself, and see how does your lighting, how does your background, how do those errant hairs look. So that's a really great trick. But I see that you may also have some O-ring
Yes.
lighting there too.
Yes. And I'm so glad that you mentioned the whole issue with glasses. So as you can see, I kind of had mine turns to the wall so that it would bounce back the light. But now you can see, I kind of feel like I'm a RoboCop. I think that's a RoboCop with the
Yes.
little eye, and it's very distracting. So as engaging and entertaining as you can be, something like this can make it look really, really
Such a good
distracting.
example.
So that's another thing that we've talked about, trying to see if you don't have the option to just try to use white walls to bounce back the light so that it kind of
Yep.
just gives you some nice light and the
Yep.
natural
Just
light.
for people who might not know, if most of us just turn on and whatever lights are on we use, but people who are doing this a lot may want to invest in an O ring. That's why it looked like an O.
Mhm.
um, they have things called diva lights. You can Google, they're on Amazon everywhere. But you could also just prop up any lamp in front of you with or without a shade in the back of you. You could prop it up on some books or whatever, and even you could use like a makeup light and see what happens when you put it behind you here, so
I
that now
love that.
casts some lights.
See,
So,
that's a great on budget trick. If you're
yeah,
just kind of getting started, I would have never thought about using a makeup light. That's brilliant. I love that you shared that tip. So now you guys know how you can improve your lighting with these simple things. But I do definitely agree with you, Rochelle, that the more that you do this, and also when you record, also depends too. If you don't have the light of day, you definitely do need lights because there's been times when I've had to record late at night and I have no light whatsoever, and the light in the office is just not enough. And I do get those
mhm,
weird cast shadows too with that lighting.
yeah.
So and you can even see it on the background too up there that I get that weird little halo effect from the reflection. So all these
Yeah.
little things are so important.
You've seen them on horror films, where they have a light underneath and the shadows it creates. Or if you've got a chandelier or an overhead light and you're doing a Zoom, you just be aware of the shadows. We don't want to make you just want to know about these little tips and tricks. You got to do what you got to do online, but it's so simple to just bring any desk lamp in front of you and improve your lighting if you're stuck in the middle of the night doing
I
something.
love
So,
that you said that. And I think that is so important because let's be honest, people will criticize whether they mean to consciously or they don't. It's that first impression, or even when people get bored and they're just kind of like there, and you start to see like, people like that. Or I've seen people like, you know, picking their face and it's just like very distracting. It's almost like people forget they're in a meeting. So I think one of the things that I would love to talk to you about, because you have all this wealth of experience, is how can we better prepare ourselves like to be comfortable, especially for people who are just getting started on being on video, whether they're doing lives or even just meetings. How does their posture, their body language affect how people perceive them?
One of the great things about having a visual meeting is you can pick up when you're talking to somebody how it's coming across, just like you would in person. Whereas on the phone, you're not sure. Are they looking bored? Are you losing them? Are they checking their notes too much? And that type of thing. But the people can also notice that about you. So it's great for you to have visual cues,
Mhm.
but it's important for you to remember that people are seeing you too. So it's just, I'd say the key is just to stay mindful, not paranoid, but mindful that, just try not to fidget, with your hair. Please don't take a big giant bite after you finish what you're saying. It's not like you've gone off camera. Um, and
Or
there's,
this.
eh,
This was an example that you were telling me
yes,
earlier, how distracting that can
I
be.
know. People who are leading a presentation need to have water just in case, but I'd suggest like a very nice, sleek looking thing with a straw. This is much better than what you just covering your
This
whole
is it.
face, right?
Yeah, it's
And the
distracting.
potential for spills, which
Yes.
can happen to all of us, especially if it's really important. And it's important to, for the most part, look at the camera while you're talking, because that means you're looking right into the eyes of the person you're speaking with. You often see people like looking down like this. And, on occasion, you do want to see what's going on with others. You might need to check a note. But overall, especially when you're speaking, look straight into that little camera. Now you know how newscasters feel. They come into your living room every night and they're talking right to you. Well, if you're in a studio, they're staring at a lens, and but they make it seem very warm and personable, and that's what you want to do too.
Yeah.
And I think the one big thing we could talk about, Nikte, is having kids, pets, other background interruptions. For things like, of course, keep your cell phone off. You can close and shut down your mail so you don't hear all those dings. That you can program your computers to eliminate those notifications while you're on Zoom. But what about, having kids and dogs run through the room too?
Yes. Oh my gosh, because that's like my scenario. So, I mean, my dog's a little older, so she's kind of in her later days now, so she won't bark as often. But in the earlier days, it was very tough. I did have to try and put her with, like a. I don't do raw hides, but like some sort of like ballistic or something that she can just chew on to be distracted, to
Mm-hmm.
not bark, because even if I moved her to a different room, she may still bark. So that was one thing. But then now with my little one, my husband's being wonderful. He's watching him right now, so we can have this downtime, but it can get challenging. There have been times where I have to set up a meeting in the middle of the day when, after his school, that he's around. So it depends really on who the client is. If it's a new client that
Yes.
doesn't know you, you may try to see if you can schedule something, that works for you, where you can have that dedicated time, and then let them know, hey, I do have children. I would love to set a dedicated time for you. These are the times that work for me. And if not, then just let them know, kind of initially say, hey, I do have my little one around. I'm going to do my best to keep them distracted, because it's happened to me. And I've been very blessed and thankful that people have been generally very understanding. And so then I'm able to run the meeting. I kind of try to have them distracted. There are a few times, like when we have our team meeting, where I'm a lot more flexible with that, because two of us do have little ones. So there's been times where we've had our meetings with them in our lap, or they come and just kind of be around, and we're able to just continue. I think that the more
Still
we
get it done.
practice, right? And
Yeah.
in the beginning, it was tough, because I would be telling you guys sorry a million times, which is something that I think we don't need to do as parents. I think it's just good to acknowledge that we do
Yes.
have kids around, and then just once you let go of trying to apologize so much and knowing people will understand, you're able to focus back on that. So I know you've told me to, Rochelle, that I'm able to like switch, and I don't even realize that I am. So I pay
Mhm.
attention to my little one, and then I'm back to the idea that we were talking about. I think what is also great is the mute button. If things do, and you're not talking, things get a little noisy, just mute yourself. I think that is also a very important one that sometimes people forget to use.
Mhm. Yeah, no, it's really true. People should mute their mics. You can hear something going on in the background and all that. But it's true that it's been more than 6 months now, and this is going to go on for quite a while. And so people are needing to be more understanding that there are distractions, but you should try to eliminate them if you can. There can be, if you can shut a door, but everybody's got a different situation at home. They have a different number of kids. They have a dog who barks or doesn't. So I think it does, like you said, depend on the audience. if it is a super important job interview that you're getting, I would go to all lengths of like having your neighbor take your dog, or could you switch off some babysitting somehow with somebody, who is safe to be in your house or your yard, and take care just for that time period. But if not, like you said, don't apologize all the way through it. Make a disclaimer at the top of the meeting and do your best. It's
I
just
love
everybody's got to be understanding now.
Yeah, I definitely think that that is really important and valuable too. Rochelle, I mean, all these tips have been like, I'm like making mental notes now to do this, to do that, like the whole everything, and it's these little things, but they're actually really important that when you put them together, they add up and it helps people keep that focus on you. And I loved how you shared all these things that we can do ourselves. And I think ultimately, and you would be the best answer for that, I think the more people that they do this, it does boost their confidence, right, Rochelle? I know you work with people in the media so much that these little things I think are crucial, but then you can kind of see that transformation in people, right? When they start to kind of show that I feel good and comfortable.
Yeah. And now that we've talked about these, I guarantee that every single person watching your YouTube channel right now is going to view everything they see differently. People on television, people in all of their meetings, even hanging out with their friends at a Google Hangout. You're going to see, oh, that person's got some shadows, or this person's like way out of the camera. Oh, look at that background, and everybody's looked at people's backgrounds. Sometimes if you're on like gallery view, you're like, let me click on that guy. Let me just see what's going on in there. Let me click on that guy. And the thing is, you want people to be paying attention to your presentation, and you're not always doing a screen share. You're not always doing a display or a keynote presentation or whatever up on the slides. So I do think that these are pretty easy. They make sense, and I think that if everybody practices half of them, you're going to be in a great position.
Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm so excited that Rochelle was here with us to share all these tips. What I do want to do is, because Rochelle has a wealth, and I'm talking about a wealth and wealth and wealth of knowledge of 35 years of doing this. So I am going to include the information in the description below of how you can get in touch with Rochelle if you have any questions. And obviously, if you are curious to see who she's worked with, you'll definitely get a chance to see that. Rochelle, thank you so much for being here. I know I love you having you on my team, but this was just like awesome to have you here and show this perspective that I feel like I just left with much better tips too on how to show up on video. So thank you so much, Rochelle.
Thank you for having me. It's been a treat.
Thank you so much, you guys. And we can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this. Bye.
Make some comments. Make some good comments down
Yes,
below. Okay.
we'd love to hear.
We'll
Thank
see
you
you
guys.
again. Bye-bye.
Bye.